Hello, folks. Welcome back to Chris Wyatt Reports. Listen, I'm going to ask for your indulgence on this video. Give me a little bit of time to unpack this. I think it's an important conversation. A viewer asked me on the video that I did regarding the Daily Mavericks attack on Cabanac and Renaldo and the Democratic Alliance, which I posted yesterday, that analysis. Asked me a question about, can you tell us what a journalist is? And it was a legitimate question. It wasn't a snarky question. So let me delve into that just a little bit and make a few distinctions here, which are important for this conversation for people to understand. And people in the media have obligations, legal, moral, and ethical.
Welcome back once again. This is Chris Report, and he assured me that since I'm in town in Boulders, folks, this is Chris Wyatt reporting from South Africa.
Now, the basic definition of a journalist is a person who writes for newspapers, magazines, or news websites, or prepares news to be broadcast. There you go. That's a journalist or a reporter. But defining and behaving are two sides of a coin, and both are necessary. The press is often referred to as the fourth estate. This term was originally coined back in 1837, its first appearance, to describe the role of the press in a free society. The term fourth estate refers to the press and news media both in explicit capacity of advocacy and implicit ability to frame political issues. Okay? Now, this implies the press has an inherent responsibility to hold the government accountable to its citizenry. A free press is essential to the conduct of civil society. In the United States, the Bill of Rights protects press freedom. Protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, a free press helps maintain the balance of power in government, but with freedom comes great responsibility. Media are expected to be free, fair, accurate, and objective in news reporting. Opinion publishing has lower expectations, as opinions cannot be unbiased, though they can and ought to be objective. Polling data reveals that the public widely believes the press to be inaccurate here in the United States. They believe the press to be inaccurate, one-sided, and lacking independence. Now, this is from the Pew Research Center back in 2011, some time ago. Now, interestingly, those criticisms represent precisely the inverse of the ideals espoused by journalistic codes of ethics. We're going to talk about ethics here. So the journalism community has codes of ethics, and the public believes that they're completely opposite of what their code holds them to. And that statement is why we have a problem here. Societies establish checks and balances to ensure the press is independent, free, and fair. This is frequently done internally or through a media agreement. A press ombudsman is a mechanism to ensure such things. In the Renaldo saga, many South Africans are for the first time learning about the Press Council, a body that fulfills such a role in South Africa. Such organizations establish an agreed upon code and hold their community, the press, accountable to those standards. When members of the community breach the code of ethics, as the Independent Online repeatedly did in reporting on the Renaldo story, they can be called out and held accountable for their transgressions by these self-governing bodies. Media organizations often establish their own code of ethics for internal self-controls, and those standards often are the de facto standards or template for others operating in this space, in the media. For example, the Associated Press media editors in 1994, their statement of ethical principles affirms that a good newspaper is fair, accurate, honest, responsible, independent, and decent, while remaining impartial and dispassionate. I think that's a brilliant description of what a media house should be. Similar statements advocating independence, accuracy, and impartiality can be found in the American Society of News Editors from 1975, their statement of principles, while the Society of Professional Journalists in 1996, their code of ethics emphasizes accuracy, fairness, and independence. The problem in 2024, folks, is that far too many media organizations use their platforms simply for advocacy, not for objectivity. Now, to be fair, they have a right to be advocates. However, that should be confined to the opinion editorial pages and clearly identified for the reader, listener, or viewer. Also, such op-ed must be factual. The press does not get a free pass to use its elevated position in society to be dishonest by ignoring facts that run counter to their preferred viewpoint. Now, many folks also complain vociferously about media in the hands of private or publicly traded for-profit companies. Well, I submit to you that the alternative is underfunded not-for-profit organizations or state-run media. Neither is particularly attractive or even desirable for obvious reasons, such as inability to remain in operation and or misuse. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with for-profit news organizations. However, they must be held to account. And a few things come to mind. Reportage of Donald Trump comes to mind, for instance. Wildly skewed media biases dramatically affected public perception, even election outcomes over COVID, Charlottesville, Muslim immigration to the United States, and various legal cases against Donald Trump. All have been inaccurately and frequently falsely reported by most media. Well, remember the Hunter Biden laptop? Well, it's not real. In fact, it was. But none of them have been held accountable for their malicious actions, which were not committed to accurately report the news, but rather to achieve a desired outcome. That is not the role of the press, but rather the role of politicians. Now, this brings us to the final point on this subject, namely a journalist or reporter versus a columnist or commentator. The lines have become most blurred here, and with the proliferation of modern media and social media, these things have confused far too many people. Rebecca Davis posted her op-ed with her opinions. That is her prerogative. A commentator may be reporting news, but is also sharing their views. So long as that is clearly indicated, it's perfectly fine. And that was the case on the Daily Maverick's website. However, the commentator with the media is obliged to report facts. In her op-ed on Roman Cabanac, Davis uses colorful language to indicate her disdain for Renaldo Gouws and Roman Cabanac. Now, she may do so, but she omits facts in the public domain, namely the press council verdict against the IOL in favor of Renaldo Gouws, released publicly a day prior. Now, I'm 6,000 miles away, 9,000 kilometers from South Africa. I'm an independent journalist and a commentator as well. And I lack the vast resources and access to sources which she and the Daily Maverick have at their disposal. Yet somehow, I managed to find and report the facts, something that not a single media outlet in South Africa have done over 2 days after the statement was released, and nearly a week since they reached the judgment. Now, Ms. Davis's omission indicates that she's either lazy or she's pushing an agenda by intentionally omitting facts which the reader is entitled to in order to form a genuine opinion of the situation. Consequently, the omission is not acceptable. Journalists and commentators can and do get things wrong, but the colorful language, failure to be fair, or present all the facts indicates something else is in play here. I have no arguments with Rebecca Davis, whom I don't know, or with the Daily Maverick specifically. However, I cannot and will not in good conscience selectively ignore the press council's determination, as the IOL has so poisoned public opinion. Someone must uphold journalistic integrity. If it's not going to be the media houses of South Africa, I'll do it. Now, what I've just said is not a statement in favor of Renaldo Gouws, Roman Cabanac, or the Democratic Alliance, nor is it a statement against any of those actors. It's also not a personal attack on Rebecca Davis or an attack on the Daily Maverick, but simply stating the facts. The media have an obligation to accurately report things, even in opinion pieces. Selectively choosing what points you want to tell someone while actively ignoring other points that counter your argument is dishonest. And any legitimate journalist would not do that. That is advocacy, political advocacy, not journalism. Anyway, there you have it, folks. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We'll catch you next time. Cheers.